Welcome back to Recap. The film begins with the two children and their babysitter sitting in the living room after a night of trick-or-treating. One of the children empties his bag of candy and notices that someone has put a VHS tape in it. The babysitter is curious about the completely unsuspicious cassette that is in a child's candy bag and puts it in. We then see a series of surprisingly high-resolution footage for a VHS tape, showing what appears to be an abandoned asylum, before moving on to Art, the clown, doing the clown things, as well as these other two creatures. Thinking it's just a scary movie, the kids join the babysitter and sit down to watch the movie. We see a woman named Casey sitting down and waiting at a train station, and we learn that it's a Halloween night after two drunk people in costumes buy her a cigarette, and after she returns from the bathroom, she becomes greeted by the completely harmless sight of Art. The clown sat across from her and stared. As he stares and smiles at the woman, he takes a horn out of his pocket and starts teasing Casey with it. He comes to her and hands her a flower with a bug in it, and when she tries to run away from the scary bug-wielding clown, he grabs her and injects her with something. Just as she loses consciousness, she looks up and sees him with glowing eyes and a wide demonic smile. She wakes up in the train station with cuffs still around her neck because she hears noises, and when she turns around she sees two other women who are also cuffed. They tell her that another woman had been with them before, but something came and dragged her by the chains into the darkness. And as they debate what to do to get out of this rather unfortunate predicament, Sarah is violently dragged away from the others to be carried down into the darkness as well. They reach the end of their chains and begin trying to break free. But as they do it again, someone who really looks like they could do with a scrub appears before cutting off Kristen's arm and killing her. The creature breaks Casey's chains while trying to kill her, giving her the opportunity to run away. And when she does, she ends up meeting a homeless man with a blank expression on his face. When she looks back at him, that blank look is replaced with a creepy expression. Then she wakes up again, reserved and surrounded by faceless people, a witch and a duckman. We see a pregnant woman being held in the same room as her, presumably the woman Sarah and Kristen were talking about earlier, before the smiley face from that terrible Shane Dawson movie shows up, and he's apparently so excited for the baby to be born that he can't control himself and pulls it out of her stomach like a child opening presents on Christmas Day. He fills the cup with the blood from the wound and then hands it to the literal devil to drink. Then her clothes are forcibly removed and the devil man pulls back his hood to reveal his horns and goes to impregnate this woman too, giving him the opportunity to cover himself with fetal juice. The babysitter then turns off the TV after noticing that she just watched the latest Womb Raider movie with lots of 10-year-olds. After providing the children with plenty of nightmare fuel, the babysitter decides to put them to bed. And after a fake jump scare in which children throw an egg at the window, she feels the urge to sit down and continue watching the tape. The tape begins with a woman on the phone talking about how she just moved into this new house and loves how quiet it is compared to the city. We learned that her husband is an artist and she isn't exactly a fan of his latest piece. It scares her so much that she has to hide it. Later that night, she sees a bright flashing light from her window, followed by a crash that causes the power to go out. After failing to turn the power back on and realizing there is no cell service, she hears a noise from upstairs and notices that a window is now open. She then tries to get into her car and escape. As she tries to escape, the car's engine fails to start before she sees a strange light flickering behind her. After making the wise decision to get out of there, she goes back into the house. She receives a call from her husband. Her husband tells her to call the police. After grabbing a knife to examine a sheet on the floor, she slowly waves the flashlight around the room, eventually revealing a slimy-looking alien creature. This corners her, but because she has a knife with her, she stabs her suit a few times before stumbling on the stairs and being grabbed. The alien tries to stab her in the leg with something, but she kicks him in the face and runs away. She locks herself in the bathroom and the alien, still searching for her, presses a button on his suit that makes a loud, deafening noise. A beeping noise so terrible that it somehow causes the woman to scream and reveal her location. It kicks down the door and tries to ram a hentai tentacle into her face, but she pulls a tube out of his mask and runs at it again. She hides under the stairs as the alien creature walks around the house, waving its arms while doing some sort of dance. The phone rings and the alien runs towards the stairs before breaking down the door. The alien pulls her away as she screams and begs for help, and as she is dragged into the other room, she pulls down the sheet that was covering the painting, revealing a large portrait of the clown's art. This bothers the babysitter and she decides to turn off the television. But when she does for a split second, She thinks she sees the alien creature watching her and reasons that it's probably just the children. But when she checks on them, they are both lying in bed and apparently haven't moved the whole time. She decides to go back downstairs to continue watching the mysterious video. The third short film begins with a woman driving down a dark street on Halloween night. She stops to get some gas, but there doesn't seem to be anyone around, until she becomes afraid of the Art the clown being thrown out of the gas station for rubbing his feces on the walls and scolded by an employee looking at the clown's face. She notices Art grabbing his bag of goodies and walking away. While the employee is filling her fuel tank and giving her instructions, a loud noise can be heard from the gas station. He goes in to investigate the disturbance, and after sitting there for a while and seeing no sign of him coming back, she decides to go in and see if she can find him. And as she enters a room, she is greeted by the place of Art cutting the man's neck with a saw. He looks up at her with a terrible smile, almost as if he's telling her he's enjoying it, and when she notices the dismembered body parts scattered around the room, she runs away. She then runs away in her car and starts screaming at the police. But when she looks up, she sees Art in front of her, waving his car and holding a sign that says, "Circus," in his hand. She ends up driving off the road after being distracted by her phone running out of battery. And when she stops, Art jumps at her window and scares her as he tries to get in the car. She manages to escape him, but seconds later she spots a car stopped on the side of the road. She stops to get help, but finds the driver of the car still alive, albeit with a badly mutilated face and cut off hands. She continues driving for a while, and after she tries to talk to her boyfriend on the phone, Art appears behind the seat and puts a plastic sheet over her head. She rips it open and slams on the brakes, causing Art to hit his head on the dashboard. She runs into the forest and finds an abandoned building to hide in. After locking the door and hiding inside for some time, Art channels his inner worm and begins to tunnel his way into the building from the ground. When she notices him and tries to flee from the worm-like clown, he begins to whip her repeatedly with a chain of blades, but eventually one of the scalpels breaks off, giving her the opportunity to take it and stab him in the eye before she can take another one of his knives and drives it into his back. Thinking that she has killed Art, she stops a passing driver and tries to explain what just happened. He tells her that he will take her to the nearest police station, but then a car appears behind them and tries to stop the couple. When it stops next to her car, it is covered in blood. Art pulls out a gun, and instead of hitting the brakes or driving faster, the driver stares at him before taking a bullet in the head, causing the car to crash and the woman to fall unconscious. As she turns around, she sees trays full of bloody surgical equipment and knives before turning the other way to greet them by laughing and pointing in her face. She looks down and sees hateful words etched into her skin before the camera reveals she is completely naked with her arms, legs and breasts removed. The phone rings, and when she answers it, it is the woman's call to the police in the short film she just saw. The television turns back on and shows the clown emerging from behind a post and walking directly towards the camera. He waves directly at the babysitter and starts banging on the glass as if it were a window. The TV then displays the room she is in, but with artwork directly behind her. But when she turns around, he is nowhere to be seen. He stands up and slowly walks towards her, but she manages to remove the tape and break it just before he touches her. She hears the children screaming from upstairs, and as she runs towards them, she stops when she sees the Art at the top of the stairs covered in blood, pointing towards the children's room. He disappears after she covers her eyes, but when she makes it to the kids' room she finds both their heads lying on the bed covered in blood and decapitated. As the credits begin to roll, we see the artist making his way to the camera in the same room as before, and then the film ends. So, that's the end of our movie. If you've come this far, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe my channel. See you later.